Hello everyone, it's Shirley here. As a request from Melissa from Practically Creative, I'm going to be showing you how I make my pineapple quilt block. I'm going to be using the same pattern that she was using in one of her videos. It is the pineapple quilt block. It's the 6-inch finished, so it'll measure 6.5 unfinished. The pattern comes from Generations Quilt Patterns, and it's the pineapple quilt pattern. This is what you can print off. There's also a coloring page, and this is the straight layout. And there's also a coloring page for the on point. So, how do I make mine? Well, the first thing I did was when I printed out one copy, I printed it out and I printed it out in reverse. So why did I do that? It's because when you're using or when you're doing foundation paper piecing, everything is done on the wrong side of the paper. So this, I have a sample here, and this was a block that I had done as a sample. This is, I believe, the 8-inch. So I'm looking at the pattern, but when you're sewing, your papers or your fabrics are going to be on the wrong side. So this is what it's going to look like. On this particular pattern, it might not make a difference if you print it out in reverse or not, because it is kind of symmetrical. So that is the basic that you are going to be looking at the right side, but you're going to be, your pattern is going to end up like this after you've stitched your fabrics on. The way my brain worked was, I want to know what it's going to look like when it's finished. So that's why I printed it in reverse. When I printed it in reverse, then I know when I place my colors that that's what it's going to look like when it's finished. So I started out with a reversed print out, and okay, with that reversed print out, I'm going to take my pencil crayons, just ordinary pencil crayons. And off to the side here, I have the fabrics I'm going to be using. I'll show you how easy it is to put together a pineapple block using all these colors and not get mixed up. The next thing I did is, I want to know what it's going to look like finished. So I took my reversed copy and it colored in all the spaces that I wanted. So I decided that I want dark pink here, light pink, then I want a gray, then I want a purple, and I've got a light purple and a dark purple, and all these colors. So that's how I determined my finished block, is by doing it on a reverse printout. So then, now I'm going to be showing you the way I do it with freezer paper, because I find it's the easiest for me, for my brain, and I don't need a special ruler, I don't need a glue stick, I don't need any of those things. So I'll show you the easy way first, and then I will go over in case you don't have freezer paper. So once I've decided that, I have my colors all laid out. And if you wanted, and if you like coloring, what you can do is take and color in all your little colors into all of this, and then you know what your finished quilt is going to look like. If you have a program like Electric Quilt or something like that, you could probably do it, and I know you can do it in there. I don't have that because it's too expensive for me, so when I'm bored or whatever, if I want to make a whole quilt, I usually do table runners to start out with. And if you want to, you can sit in front of the TV and put your colors in, and then you're going to be able to see what the quilt looks like all finished. So from my reversed pattern, what I did was I printed out a copy in the way you would normally print it out. Now I'm going to stumble with my words here. So now I have my reverse copy that's got the colors on it. I printed it out that it's not reversed. Then I took it and I transferred those colors onto this copy right here. I've colored it all in, and it's for the sake of the video. I don't put all this stuff on here. When I first started out, I did. But once I got the hang of it, then I didn't have to do all this preparation. So what I did was I colored in, following my reversed copy, and I colored in the sections. So I knew 2 was going to be dark pink, 3 is going to be dark pink, and so on. If you don't want to color it in, you can just write in the color of fabrics that you're going to be using. I don't do that. I do the color. I find it's easier and faster for me if I can do it this way, and then I don't have to read the number, or I don't have to look and say, okay, that's blue. I can just look at it and I know it's blue, so that's what the piece I'm going to use. So once I did that, I have my pattern all ready here. The outside edge is your cutting line. The black solid lines are your stitching lines. In the center, it has a dotted square, and that is going to be your first piece that you lay down in the center to start your pineapple block. Okay, stitching line, okay, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now, what have I got here? Okay. So then what I did was, okay, now how am I going to cut out my fabrics? Well, I could measure each one of these and figure it out, but I don't do that. What I did was I took this to my printer and I took a piece of freezer paper and printed it out. And I printed it out on the matte side. There's a shiny side, which is the glue side, not glue side, pardon me. It is the plastic coated side. You want to remember, if you're going to use freezer paper, you will need to make sure that you are purchasing is the Reynolds Kitchen, and you want to make sure you're getting plastic coated freezer paper, not wax coated. Wax will not adhere to the fabric. The plastic coated freezer paper does. So that's what I use. This one comes in white, and then I did show in one of the other videos that it does come in a craft color. I like to use the white, but when you can't get it, you use what you can get, right? Okay, so I took this and I took it to my printer and I made a copy. Oh, and the other thing is you have to remember to print it out at 100%. Sometimes they'll have a little square on it, which you will measure, and it'll be a little 1-inch square, whatever, and that will make sure that you're printing it at 100%. Okay, now let's see if I can remember here. Okay, so now I thought, okay, I need something to cut my fabrics. So I printed one copy, and this is going to be the copy that I print out to cut all my fabric pieces. So I have a cutting my fabric, then I printed out another one, and this one is going to be my stitching pattern. The freezer paper can be used up to, well, I've used it 6 times. So, but I start out with 1. So here in front of me, I have 2 copies of freezer paper, and they've got all my colors on them and everything. Now, the next thing I did was, okay, I have 2 paper copies here, just printed on paper, and those I'm going to show you how to use just ordinary printer paper, but I'll show you the easy way first. So I'll set those off to the side. Now, one thing you have to remember, don't put freezer paper in your inkjet or in your laser printer. Your laser printer works on heat. Heat will melt the plastic coating and it'll get stuck in your printer. And I know that because I did it. I have a laser printer and I have an inkjet printer. And my printer, the one I had, didn't want to accept the freezer paper for some reason, whether it was just the weight of it or the edges were curled or something. So I tried putting it through my laser printer and I have never been able to find the piece of paper. So don't put freezer paper in your laser printer unless you are printing on fabric that has been adhered to the shiny side. So, let's see. What else can I tell you? Can you resize it? Yes, you can. You just have to remember that your 1/4 inch won't be the same size. And I can go over that in another video if someone wants to resize this to a different size. So now, what am I going to do? Let me see here. So then I thought, now I need to cut my fabrics. So what I did was I'm not going to measure anything. I am just going to, I just have to move these out of the way so I don't get them confused. So this one is how I'm going to cut my fabrics. I don't measure. I take and use, this rotary cutter is just used for paper. So I'm going to take a ruler, and any kind of a ruler. Now I have an add a 1/4 here, and this is what I will be using throughout the video. But now I'm going to take this is going to be for cutting my fabrics. So I'm going to just line up my ruler on the outside edge, which is the dotted line, and I'm going to cut out along that dotted line. And what can I tell you while I'm cutting this out? Save your freezer paper scraps, because you can use them for so many things. I did show in one of the videos how you can put it on your threads to keep your threads under control. I also use it for wrapping my fabrics. If I have strips, the fabrics I'm using are all scraps. And I save my cutoffs. And if I have some fabric, I can take it like this, put it around, and just with my iron, I can iron that on. It'll stick to itself. If it's not long enough, add another one. Iron it on, bring it around, and that keeps your fabrics under control. You can take it off, and it can be reused. So, okay. I have my freezer paper pattern here, and I'm going to be now cutting out my pattern pieces. So I'm looking at the numbers all the way in here. My highest number is 41. So I'm going to start with the highest number, and I'm going to start cutting out my pattern pieces. Now, I'm either going to confuse you all to heck, or I'm going to make it easier for you. And hopefully I'm going to make it easier. So I'm going to lay my ruler on the line for the 41 piece, which is going to be gray. And I'm just going to cut along that line. I'm going to set it aside. Now I want to go to the next one, which is number 40, and I'll cut that piece out. Whoops, I did the wrong one, but it doesn't matter here. But you have to remember, when you're doing this, you have to go in reverse. And I did the 38 instead of the 39. 39, 38. Okay, and I'm just going to stack those up, and that's going to be my gray pile. So 38, I now am looking for 37. So where's 37? Right here. And that didn't come out, but it's light blue. So now I'm going to make a pile, or I'm just going to lay this out. That didn't come out, so I'm just going to make sure. And you don't have to color the whole thing in. You can just color it in around the number or whatever. But I seem to work better when I can see the color instead of reading numbers and everything. And this one is light blue. Okay, now it'll make more sense to my brain. So 37, 36. So 36 is light blue. And I'll put that in a pile. So 36, now I want 35. So 35 is going to be the dark blue. So dark blue. Now I want, let's just stack these up because I'm confusing myself. So we're going to just stack them up the way I'm cutting them out. So 35, now I'll look for 34. And I've left my seam allowance on the edge. The inside pieces won't have seam allowance on them, but the outside ones will. So there's 34. Now I'm going to go to 33. And 33, 32. And I'm not worrying about colors or anything like that right now, because all I'm concerned about is getting my pattern pieces cut out. And the next one is 31. Now I want 30. And now 29, which is this one. And 28. And remember, I don't care what the color is or anything, I'm just getting the numbers out. 28, 27. 26. And 25 now. Where's 25? Right here. Okay, I'm going to fast forward this until I have all my pieces cut out. Okay, I have all my pieces cut out now, and probably I should have put them in a little container or something so I don't lose them, but I'm going to hopefully be able to work with this. The other thing that I have that I use because I have problems with my hands, and I have trigger finger in my left hand, and I've had 2-3 surgeries on it already. So I've got here is some Scotch removable tape, and that's going to help me when I get to these pieces that if my hands can't handle it, I'll use the tape to pick up my pieces. Or I do also have somewhere I have, oh, here they are. I have a pair of tweezers, and the ones I use are the ones that you press, it opens up, and when you let go, it closes up, so you don't have to keep pressure on it. That saves my hands. So I use those, and I think they're called reverse tweezers. This one came in I do paper crafts too, and this one came from Making Memories, but those are two things that I use to help me because my hands don't work sometimes like they should. Okay, so now we're going to separate our colors, and that's where I'm going to use my tape. And the first one is white, which is the center, so I can just pick that up. Okay, that's pink, that's pink. Okay, so white, and I'm not worrying about the order or anything like that. I'm going to start by using my white, and once I've picked them up, I can just set them on there. So white, and again, you want removable tape here. White, that's gray. I'm gonna find all my whites. I guess I could gray, 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 gray. So I'm just gonna separate them into their little piles. So I've labeled purple. So those are my purples. And I'm just using 2.5-inch strips. And so pink. This is the dark pink. Sorry, I'm getting out of frame here. And I'm just going to put my iron on there. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. That's going to hold them there for me. And this one's pink. Can't pick it up, so I'll just use my tape. Oops, I'm getting out of frame here again. Just give that a quick little press with the iron, and that'll hold it into place. Now I've got, what have I got here? Light purple and light purple. So I'm just going to stick that on there. That's going to hold it so I don't lose it. So I know on my pattern that I only have 2 pieces in light purple and 2 pieces in dark purple. So those can go aside. This can go aside. And now, what have I got here? Oh, here we have light pink. And again, if you can't pick it up, use that piece of removable tape. Give that a press down. I'm just using a little Dritz mini iron, and I have it set on 4. It will shut off. And now we want yellow. So I've got my light yellow and my dark yellow. So I've chosen this as my dark yellow. Just give that an iron on. And now my light yellow. It's my tape. And everything I'm showing you is because I have fibromyalgia, and sometimes, again, my hands don't work, and I just found ways to do the things I wanted to do. And I found ways that I could do things when my hands don't work or the rest of my body doesn't work. So I have light green and light green. This is just temporary. And now we have the dark green. And I just don't want to press the two pieces of freezer paper together there. So, you think I'm crazy yet? Okay, and we have light blue and light blue. So this I've chosen as my light blue. So put that on there. Set that off to the side, and now this I've chosen as my dark blue. So what's left? Gray. I have gray here, and the little pieces I'm going to just lay them out temporarily just so they stick on there and I don't lose them. The bigger pieces I'll just leave them off to the side. And I'll be cutting my gray pieces from this piece of yardage. And now white, making sure I don't have any more pieces. And there's my white. So I'm going to start by cutting out my white. Set that off to the side. Keep my tape handy. And I'm just tidying up over on my right hand side here and just moving the ones that I'll work on later. Now, for cutting my fabrics, I just have some white 2.5-inch strips. And I have my white pieces here. So I'm just going to take a strip, and this is just some, I don't know, scrap pieces that I've had. The pieces that I have that I'm using are actually polycottons. So the main thing is when you're working with paper piecing, you always have to remember that you're going to be cutting your pieces out with the wrong side of the fabric facing up. So if you were using a print, and I have a demonstration of this, but you want to make sure that your pieces are going to be put onto the wrong side of the fabric. Now I don't measure. Some people will take and they'll measure that little piece on the pattern and everything, but I don't do that. So now, your pattern pieces, you want to make sure that you have seam allowance on all the edges. So I'm using scraps, and they recommend that you put that you cut at least a 1/2 inch away on all sides. You can do that to start with. Once you get the hang of it all, so you don't waste fabric, you can go to a smaller seam allowance on all edges. And all you're really doing is cutting so you have 1/4 inch seam on all sides. So what I do is I'll take my piece, and just for quick demonstration purposes, I am going to just take a friction pen and keep losing everything. So I'm just going to take, and I have just an Omni Grid ruler, and I've put a piece of glow line tape just at the 3/8 inch mark. I'm not going to add the full 1/2 inch. I'm going to go down to 3/8 of an inch. If you're working with yardage or whatever, you can just place it on. So I'm going to take this, put my ruler down so the edge of the fabric, that pink edge right there, is 3/8 of an inch away from the cut edge of the fabric. And I have, right here is my selvage. So I'm just going to line that up, and I'm going to just draw a line. And that friction pen is going to come off, but so now I'm just going to place the edge of my pattern piece on there. With my iron, because it's freezer paper, I can just iron it on. I know I've got enough on this side, and now I'm going to take another piece. Doesn't matter. Now, if you do it like this, then you can cut in between here and you won't be wasting fabric. For this demonstration, I'm going to be wasting fabric, but once you get the hang of this, you'll be able to lay your pattern pieces out so that when you cut out everything, you'll use less fabric. So now I'm going to lay this one out so that I can cut. And I'm just eyeballing this. I figure, okay, that's about 3/8 of an inch, so now I'm going to lay that one on. I don't think this fabric really has a right and a wrong side, so, and now this one's going to go this way. And now I am going to just set these off to the side for a minute, because I might be able to get another strip along here. The other thing is, in some cases, if it's on an outside edge, I'll be working straight of grain, so I don't have bias edges. Now I'm going to take my, put it this way so I'm working the right way. I'm going to take my ruler and the 3/8. So I'm going to add 3/8 of an inch from that stitching line. And I'll use my fabric ones, fabric rotary cutter. And now I'm going to measure 3/8 of an inch from this edge. And again, remember, I'm just using scraps, so I don't care how much I'm wasting here. These are just scraps that I had. So now all I need to do now is cut 3/8 of an inch away from that line there. And it's kind of hard to see because I cut the little line off, but there it is right there. Okay, I have one piece cut. I'll continue on and fast forward here, and you can see how I go about cutting all my pieces. Okay, now what if you are making more than one block? For this demonstration or this tutorial, I'm just making one block. So while I explain to you, I will keep cutting out. So if you're making more than one block, I'll show you how I do that. And you're going to have to know how many pieces you're going to need. So if you are making just give me a minute, I'll think of it. You'll need to know how many pieces you need to cut out. So if you're making 5 blocks, you'll need to cut 5 of each one of the pattern pieces. And I start out just by cutting one piece and doing a sample block. And I'll just put this in fast forward, and then I'll come back and there, that works better. I'll show you how I Okay, I have cut out enough of my white pieces to do one block. If I was making 4 blocks, I would now take my I'll just give this a quick press here. If I need to make, say, well, I'm going to do 4 blocks because it's easier. So now I have 1 block. So now what I'll do is I'll take and I'll stack my fabrics however I need to make another 3 blocks. So I'll need 3 layers. So I've got 1, 2, and I'll just fold this back, and I've got now 3 layers of fabric. Just going to give that a press. I recommend when you're doing this to start out just by making a sample block first. Once you know that your pieces and everything are cut, then cut right and everything, and you've got all your colors and everything. I'm going to cut that salvage edge off, and I think I need a new blade in my rotary cutter. Okay, so I have 3 layers. I've got 1 layer cut. Now I'll just lay these out, and I can butt them up, and this way I will use much less fabric because they'll fit together like a puzzle. And I'll just, now I can lay them on this way because I know that one is going to be fitting on there, and that fits pretty good. I'm a little short, but remember I added 3/8 of an inch on here. So if I'm a 1/16 of an inch off, I don't have to worry about it because I've added more seam allowance on all the sides. So now out of this 2.5 strip, you can see where my fabric usage is, there's not going to be much waste at all. Now I'm just going to take my iron, and I didn't put it on my pressing mat. So I'll just pick that up, and I'm just going to give it a light press onto that. It's really not doing anything for sticking, but it seems to hold the fabric. You can do it 1 piece at a time if you want, but the heat just seems to make the fabric just stick a little bit better. So now I can just take and slide that off. And I'll use the small one. And I'll cut down the center. Now what I could have done is I could have measured the width of the strip that I need, which my puzzle piece came out. I can now measure, and I need at least 1.25 inch strip. So I could have cut, I know that this is a 2.5-inch strip, so I could have cut the strips in half and then just laid them out. But sometimes I get ahead of myself and do things a little ridiculous. If they come off, I can always put them back on again and line them up. So now I'm going to cut this one. Okay. Yes, I need a new blade in my rotary cutter. Oh, sorry about that, everyone. So now I have enough to do 4 blocks. And I'll just continue on with that. And because I'm just using one, I'm going to stop there and I'll cut these ones out after. But for the purpose of the video, I just want one of each because I'm just making one. So all I have to do is just take the top one off and set it there. And I will, off camera, do the rest of them when I go to make the other blocks. So that's how you cut out if you need more than one block made. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to my other colors, and I'm going to set these in a little, I just use little dollar store things, and I'm going to put those in there. So I should have all my white pieces cut out. So I'm going to just start out with my blue here. I can peel those off because the freezer paper peels off easily, and I can reuse it again. Now I know from the other pieces I can cut this now and use 1 1/4 inch piece, because no, I can't, because those side pieces have seam allowance on them, so I can't do it with that. The ones with seam allowance on them, these are your outer edges, and I left the seam allowance on because I need 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to lay this on here. Where's my pressing mat? I want to leave a little extra on here. Now, the other thing is I almost goofed up here, but if you look at my diagram or my color sheet, so my light blue, I need only 2 pieces, and there's my light blue and there's my light blue. I only need 2 pieces to make 1 block, so I'm just going to go single layer. If you're making more than 1 block, you can layer your fabrics up if you want. So I only need one of each. Bring this back. And I'm going to make sure I leave enough. There's selvage there, so I don't want that. I'm going to leave a little bit there. And if I was doing this not making a video, I would be very careful and figure out exactly to use less fabric. And I think should have at least 3/4 of an inch in between there. Yep. Now to save some fabric, I'm just going to cut this off. And that may be 1.25 inches. Yes, I think I could have done it the other way, but I'll just cut it like this. Just making sure I've got enough fabric on the edges. I'm working on I'm working on I just can't remember what the name of it is. Rotating cutting mat, that's what it is. I'm working on a rotating cutting mat, but I don't have enough room in my film area to turn it, so I'm turning my fabrics. So now my light blue is done. So off camera, I'm going to go ahead and cut out all my fabrics the same way. And I will show you on when I cut out the yardage for the gray. So I'll be back when I get all my pieces cut out. Okay, off camera, I've gone ahead and cut out my pattern pieces to make one block. And in my infinite wisdom, I was thinking when I was cutting that out, I should have been cutting out 2, because I want to show you how to do the stitching and everything on just regular printer paper. And I told you I was going to show you how I used yardage to cut out my gray pieces. So I'm just going to peel these off. And sorry if I get my head in the way or I bump the camera or whatever, or forget what I was going to say. So for the gray pieces, the inside pieces are here, and we want to cut these pieces out here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay out my yardage, set my other pieces off to the side. Now I'm going to try and get this into frame here for you. And I'm going to line this up on one of my lines on my cutting mat. And I'm just going to take and square off this edge with my 1/4 ruler. was off camera, I should have put a new rotary blade in my, rotary cutter. Okay. Now, how do I figure out how to lay my pattern pieces on for this? I've got 4 layers of fabric here. Now, if you're working with a solid fabric, you don't have to worry which is the right and wrong side, because really, you really can't tell which is the right and wrong side. So with my fabric folded, I'm going to lay this out, and I want my pressing mat. I don't want to be pressing on my cutting surface. So, just with it in that position, I'm just going to lay this out, and I think I need to cut 2 pieces because I am going to show you how to do it with just the paper. So I am going to just make sure I have 2 layers of fabric. I don't know whether I can move my phone up anymore to get a better view, but hopefully you can see this. So the outside edges already have a seam allowance on them, but I do want to make sure I cut it big enough. So I'm going to lay this on, and I've got a salvage edge here, so I'm going to move it so that I'm not getting into the salvage edge. Now, so far I haven't done any measuring. It's just been basically laying the pieces on and cutting them. I haven't had to think about what size I need or anything. But sometimes you might see where I might measure a bit. Because I've got a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance there, I can leave a little bit less here. You don't want to cut right along the edge. I'm going to press this down. Now, if everything works out, this should end up to be a square when I put the other one in here. A square or a rectangle, I'm not too sure. But, let's see now if I can remember this. Now, I want to be working on the straight of grain. My outside pieces, I want to make sure that it's on the straight of grain, because I don't want any bias on the outside edges, because that can distort the block. So I want to make sure that I'm putting my outside edges so that it's on the straight of grain. So now what I need to determine here is I need 3/8 of an inch along here. So I'm just going to take my friction pen, and I'm going to draw a line, and I'm leaving 3/8 of an inch. But I want to put another piece beside that, so I'm going to draw another line, 3/8 of an inch past that. And so this piece is going to be laid out like this. I've got 3/8 of an inch from there and 3/8 of an inch from there. And just with my iron, I'm just going to press it down. I will lose my marks, but that's okay. I know it's in the right position. So now for the next 2 pieces, I'm just going to draw a line 1/4 of an inch past, because I need to put these 2 pieces in. Next. So I'm only going to add 1/4 of an inch because that outside edge already has the 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to draw another line 1/4 of an inch away. So I now know where I can place this one. And as long as I've got it, I don't want to be putting it like this because these are going to be biased then. I want to keep everything on the straight of grain. So now I've got my seam allowance in between, or my extra fabric. And so now I will draw my line Am I still in frame? See, I get going too fast and then I forget to make sure I'm in frame. So I'm going to draw my 3/8 inch there, and from there I'm going to draw another 3/8. Now my next piece is going to go on like this. I'm going to give it a little bit of a space there. Now I'm going to press that down. So now I have those done. And the only pieces left are these ones here. Now remember, I'm cutting 2 layers for this because I am going to show you the working with, I'll think of it just a minute, paper piecing just with the regular printer paper. So now I have outside edges there. You can use your tape to hold it in place. Okay, so now I'm just going to, from this edge here, I'm going to just leave 1/4 of an inch on the outside edge. And 1/4 of an inch on the outside edge here. And remember, the reason I'm only adding 1/4 of an inch is because there already is 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on the outside edges. If your pattern does not have the 1/4 inch around, you will have to add it. Some patterns will not have the 1/4 of an inch on the outside edges. So make sure that you check your pattern to be sure that it does have the seam allowances on the outside edges. Now I'm just going to line these up here again. Make sure they're half decent. So now I'm just going to cut in between those 2 pieces. Give this a turn around, add 1/4 of an inch. And there's my 3/8 inch that I've left. Those 2 pieces are now ready. And this one I just have to cut down on that line. And I'll set those in my little basket off to the side. The last pieces I have to cut are my inside gray pieces. So, and remember, I'm cutting 2 layers because I should have cut 2 layers of everything in the first place. If you're not using freezer paper, you can you'd have to glue stick them down, but I find with paper piecing, the easiest thing is to use the freezer paper, especially when you're doing things like this. You could cut your strips and measure and everything like that. You know, you could lay this down and okay, I need this and I need this and then I need this much this way, and so I have to cut my strips this and everything. But this way, I don't have to think. And trust me, my brain doesn't like to think sometimes. So I'm just laying these down. Also, if you're using a print or a patterned, well, let's put it this way. If you're not using solid fabric that doesn't have a right and a wrong side, you will have to make sure that when you layer your fabrics together, that you have wrong sides up. All my little pieces here. We'll see how many we can get on here. And I think I might be able to get one tiny piece at the end. No, I'm just gonna cut it like that and I'll probably get one piece out of there. But so now I'm just gonna take this. Oops, I think I was out of frame there. Sorry about that. You can see how I've got them laid out. So now I'm going to cut one strip, and I seem to, oh no, I know where it is. I've lost my big ruler. Now I'm just using an OmniGrid 6 by 12 ruler, and I'm going to line this up so that I have my 3/8 of an inch mark all the way down there. I don't have a whole lot of specialty rulers because I've never really had to use them, because I can find ways to do things without the expense of buying all the special rulers. If you can afford it, great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, this is approximately 1 1/8 inch. So I'm just going to take and trim off 1 1/8 inches from the edge of this, and then I won't have to deal with all this extra fabric. So that's so far has been pretty much the only thinking I had to do and measuring. Now I can get rid of my big piece of fabric, and you should see the mess I have off to the side. Okay, now I need my pressing mat again, and I'll try to remember to keep in frame this time. 2 layers. Now, one thing I did forget to tell you too is you can starch your fabrics. I do pre-wash all my fabrics, but that is my personal choice. It's just something that I've always done from my garment sewing days. I always pre-washed. I'm laying down the last of my gray pieces. And again, I'm not measuring in between. I'm going to chance it, and you can measure and make sure you have at least I'd say at least 3/4 of an inch, or just measure an inch and put it. So if I was going to do that, I would put it here, and then I would put the next piece down like that, and then I know I've got tons of fabric in between that I'm not going to make myself short. I am short, but I won't short myself on fabric. How about that? Okay. Now I'm just going to take my little ruler and cut. And I'm going to cut like this so that I'm always cutting on the same angle, and I'll just flip them around. Now, on these small gray pieces, you will see a dotted line here. That is not a cutting line. That is your line that is showing up right here. So if I lay this down, you can see that's number 7. So what you're seeing there is the line, and that is your placement for your center or your number 1 piece of fabric that you're going to place down. So don't get that confused. A lot of patterns will have that on there, some won't. So I'll just finish cutting this off. And I believe off camera, when I was cutting out my other pieces, it took me about maybe 15 minutes to cut all my pieces. And I'd probably do a lot better too if I put a new blade in. So you can see it's easy to cut out 2 layers just by placing your fabrics down. I hope everyone's still with me here, and I haven't confused you. Once you start on paper piecing, you will find ways to cut down on your fabric waste just by knowing how much you need on the outside edges. But really, I've found that I can do a lot with cutting them and coming up with very little waste. Now, that was too easy. Did I get them all? I hope I did. I ran out of fabric and I ran out of pieces, so I must have enough. Okay, here are my pieces. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer to my printout that I did for my pattern, and I'm now going to lay it out the way it's going to be stitched. I could start with the number 1, which is, this is number 1, and there's 2, and there's 3. So I really don't even have to look at this. All I have to do is just even refer to this, and I'm going to find the number 1 piece. The reason I look at the colored one is because it's going to tell me what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the white center piece. So that's not it. Here is my white center piece. So I'm going to put that face down. What's my next number? My next number is 2, and it's pink. So here's my pink, and here's my number 2. I'm going to lay that down. Next is 3. The next one is 4, which is light pink. So there's my number 4. Lay that down. 5 is light pink. The next one, where's 6? 6 is gray. Okay. So I'm looking for a number 6 gray. And I just need my, I don't know what I did with it. I have a little, I call it a pokey tool, but it's a, oh, here it is. It's a stylus or whatever. And so I'm just, because my fingers don't work, I'm just going to use that to flip up. And then I don't have to fiddle around. Okay, so we wanted, what was the last number? The last number was number 5. So I need number 6. I'm going to leave those 2 together. There's 2 pieces here. So 6, and here's 7. So where's 7? 7 is over here, and it's gray. Number 8. What's number 8? Number 8 is gray. Just using my little stylus here. Whoops. Like I said, my fingers don't work sometimes. I'm looking for number 8. There's number 8. I'm going to lay that down. And then the next number is 9. So there's my number 9. So I'm looking for number 10 now, which is purple. And that's my dark purple. Okay, where's my other piece? Okay, what'd you do with it, Shirley? And I know I cut it. At least I think I did. Oh. Peekaboo. Number 10. There it is. Give that a little press on there so I don't lose the little label on there. 10 is purple. 11 is purple. What am I looking for? 11, 12 is light purple. So I'll take that. There's number 12. There's number 13. Now I want 14. What color is 14? 14 is white. So it's in with my whites. There it is right there, 14. Now I want 15. Where's 15? There it is. 15. Now I want 16. And 16 is white. And 17 should be white. Make sure I'm stacking those half decent. And now, where was I? I was on 17, so I now want 18. What color is 18? 17, 18 is yellow. And it's the dark yellow. So there's my yellow. And 19 is yellow. Now we're looking for 20, so that should be the light yellow. Light yellow. And 21 is light yellow. 22 is gray. So I'll find my 22 in my gray pile. And there it is. 22. Where was I? 22, up there. So then we want 23. That one's gray. 24 is gray up there. And 25, where's 25? 25 should be gray. Now I want 26, so 26 should be my green, and that's my dark green. So 26, 27, and now it should be 28, which is the light green. 28, 29. If you can count, that's great. Sometimes I can't. Now, I forgot where I was. Where was I? I looked to my pile. I was on 29. I'm looking for 30. And I'm going to, where's 29, 27, 28? Okay, 29. 30 is white. Where is my, oh, right here. 30 is white. And 30, 31, 32, and 33. So 30, 31, 32, and 33. I'm looking for 34, and that's blue. So that's my dark blue. So there's 34, 35, 36, 37. Here's my 38. And now I'm looking for 39. And there it is. 39 and 40. And my last one is 41. I'm going to pick those all up, turn them around. They're all in order number. If I get lost, I know exactly where I am. I'm going to put that back in the little basket, and I will be back when I get everything all set up for the next section, which is our stitching pattern.